こんにちは、キムテイです。皆さんは元気ですか？私は元気ですよ。This is the 21st lesson for learning Japanese from scratch. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to combine two sentences into one compound sentence using conjunctions. In English grammar, coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, or, etc. can be used to join two simple sentences into one compound sentence. Japanese has a similar concept as well, but with some important differences as we'll soon learn. First of all, the list of conjunctions in Japanese are simply different from English. Some words like and are expressed using different grammar we'll cover later. In this lesson, we'll cover three of the most common conjunctions in Japanese: but, because, and despite. We will cover others in later lessons. The first two particles we'll learn is ga and kedo. Either can be used to combine two sentences together to mean but or however. The only difference between the two is that ga is more formal while kedo is for a more casual or conversational situation. There's also an even more formal version, keredomo, which I won't cover here, but it works the same as kedo. Compound sentences are formed in generally the same way as English. We take the first sentence, append the particle, in this case ga or kedo, and then attach the second sentence. In English, this would become sentence 1, but sentence 2. So, for example, if we wanted to say Japanese is hard but fun, we can say Nihongo wa muzukashii ga tanoshii, or Nihongo wa muzukashii kedo tanoshii. The same rules apply even if the first sentence is in polite form. The ga or kedo comes after the polite ending, so the previous example would become Nihongo wa muzukashii desu ga tanoshii desu. Nihongo wa muzukashii desu kedo tanoshii desu. So far pretty easy, but there's one very important thing to remember. If the first sentence ends in a noun or na-adjective with an implied state of being, we must first explicitly declare the state of being with the declarative da before appending the ga or kedo. You may remember in the previous video about sentence ending particles that the declarative da is used to make a sentence sound more masculine. As we can see here, it's also needed in various grammar to explicitly declare the state of being regardless of gender. For example, let's change the previous sentence to say Japanese is easy but fun. If we use the word kantan for easy, because it's a na-adjective, we must first append da to the end of the first sentence before we can use the conjunction particle. So as you can see, the sentences become Nihongo wa kantan da ga tanoshii and Nihongo wa kantan da kedo tanoshii. We only need the declarative da if the first sentence ends in a noun or na-adjective. You should not use it for anything else, such as the polite form, the negative form, i-adjectives, or essentially anything besides just a plain noun or na-adjective. So which one of these four sentences do you think needs to add a da? Number 1, tanoshii kedo muzukashii. Number 2, kantan janai ga daijoubu. Number 3, kyou wa hima kedo ashita wa isogashii. Or number 4, gakusei desu ga daijoubu desu ka? If you answer number 3, you're correct. You need to put da before kedo because the first sentence ends in hima, which is a na-adjective. In number 1, the first sentence ends in an i-adjective. In number 2, the na-adjective is conjugated to the negative form. And in number 4, the first sentence ends with des. So you should not add da to 1, 2, and 4. Now let's learn two conjunctions to describe a reason. Similar to ga and kedo, there are two different versions with slightly different levels of politeness. Kara is the generic version that you can use any time, while node sounds a bit softer and more polite. However, unlike ga and kedo, kara and node are very similar and are pretty much interchangeable. Kara and node are used in the same way as before by attaching it to the end of the first sentence and then attaching the second. One very important thing to pay attention to is that the reason or cause always comes first, so that the order becomes reason, so, result. So taking the same example from before, if you say Nihongo wa muzukashii kara tanoshii or Nihongo wa muzukashii node tanoshii, it means because Japanese is difficult, it's fun. Because the reason or cause comes first, this sentence means that Japanese is fun because it's hard. Once again, we have some rules to remember if the first sentence ends in a noun or an adjective. Now, kara is the same as ga or kedo in that you have to append da to the first sentence if it ends in a noun or an adjective. However, for node, we have to use na instead of da. So if we take the na-adjective kantan from before and we want to say that Japanese is fun because it's easy, kara is the same as ga or kedo, so we have to say Nihongo wa kantan dakara tanoshii. However, for node, we must instead use na and say Nihongo wa kantan nanode tanoshii. Despite or in spite of is the last conjunction particle we'll learn in this lesson. This one has only one version, no ni, and is used by appending it to the sentence that it's in spite of. So if we say sentence 1, no ni, sentence 2, in English this becomes in spite of sentence 1, sentence 2. Grammatically, no ni works exactly the same as no de. In the second example, same as no de, because the first sentence ends in a noun or na-adjective, you must first append na. So if we want to say in spite of Japanese being easy, it's fun, we must say Nihongo wa kantan nano ni tanoshii. Just like compound sentences in English, we can omit either the first or second sentence. Let's try that with the sentence from the previous slide. Nihongo wa kantan nano ni tanoshii. If we omit the second sentence, we get Nihongo wa kantan nano ni. This means despite Japanese being easy. If we omit the first sentence, we get nano ni tanoshii, which means despite that, it's fun. Notice that when the first sentence is omitted, you must add either na or da as we did for the various conjunctions we learned in this lesson when the first sentence ended in a noun or na-adjective. So for example, if we use the various conjunctions we learned in this lesson, you get dakedo tanoshii, daga tanoshii, dakara tanoshii, nanode tanoshii, and nano ni tanoshii. When these particles are used with the first sentence omitted, they act very similar to other conjunctions such as demo that may have the same meaning. For example, the three sentences dakedo tanoshii, daga tanoshii, and demo tanoshii all have the same meaning. However, the major difference is that words like demo are not particles and cannot be used to connect two sentences. To sum up the various rules we have just learned, if the first sentence ends in a noun or na-adjective or is omitted, we need to put either na or da before the conjunction. If the conjunction starts with no, such as no de and no ni, we need to use na. Otherwise, for all other conjunctions, we need to use da. While these rules seem a bit complicated, it's important to know when to use da and na at the end of a noun or na-adjective clause, as we'll see in later lessons. So to make sure you got the rules down, let's practice with some example sentences. Using the various words we saw in this lesson, how would you say the following? Because it's fun. You can say either tanoshii kara or tanoshii no de. In polite form, you would say tanoshii kara desu. Next, how would you say the following? Even though it's easy? You could say kantan nano ni, or for the polite form, kantan nano ni desu ka? Next, how would you say, that's why it's fun? You could say either dakara tanoshii or nanode tanoshii. For the polite form, you can say dakara tanoshii desu or nanode tanoshii desu. Next, how would you say, I'm free today but not tomorrow? You can say either 今日は暇だけど明日は暇じゃない or 今日は暇だが明日は暇じゃない. For the polite form, you can say either 今日は暇ですけど明日は暇じゃないです or 今日は暇ですが明日は暇じゃないです. Finally, how would you say the following? I'm not free today, but tomorrow is okay. You can say the following. 今日は暇じゃないけど明日は大丈夫 or 今日は暇じゃないが明日は大丈夫. For the polite form, you can say 今日は暇じゃないですけど明日は大丈夫です or 今日は暇じゃないですが明日は大丈夫です. In this lesson, we learned how to combine two sentences into one compound sentence using conjunctions. We also learned that the declarative state of being is necessary for certain grammar. In the next lesson, we'll learn how to list multiple nouns in one sentence using various particles. So until then, I'll see you next time.